Welcome, everybody, and on today's episode, I am discussing Mortal Kombat 2. So get over here and let the tournament begin as Cine James Movie Talk starts now. Welcome, everybody, to Cine James Movie Talk. I am your host, Mr. Cine James himself, and today I am finally getting around to it, as today I am doing my full spoiler discussion on Mortal Kombat 2. But, as always, you know what to do. If you like the show, you like the content, you're listening to me on YouTube, hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you're listening to me on Spotify, tap that bell, tap that follow, show me some love, and as always, I greatly appreciate all of your support. This is episode 12. We are now 12 episodes in to my new show, and for those that have watched before, you know the routine here. We are going to get into some quick stats of the movie before we get into the spoiler discussion. So let's go ahead and get into those stats. So today we are talking about Mortal Kombat 2, released on May 8th, 2026, just a little over a month ago. This movie was directed by Simon McQuoid. I hope I said his name correctly. The movie had a budget of $80 million and has a current box office of $128 million, which I believe will be coming to an end soon because it is now getting ready to hit digital release. And with those numbers, here's the interesting thing with this movie. Box office wise, it was a little underwhelming. However, it did have an 87% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, and it had a 64% critic score, which for a movie, that's actually pretty good. And that audience score, even though the box office numbers were low, the audience and the fans, the number 87% reflects that genuinely overall, this movie was well received and well liked by the fans. So now that we have gone through some of the quick stats on this movie, let's go ahead and dive in to my spoiler review for Mortal Kombat 2. Again, this is a spoiler review, so if by chance you have not seen this movie yet, check out the movie and then come back and watch this episode. But as of right now, we are now going into, as they say, spoiler territory. This is a spoiler review, and we are getting ready to start now. So, as I mentioned in my non-spoiler review, this movie was a pure fan service movie. It's a beat 'em up that is very reflective and, again, fan service to the video game series. It did not have much of a story behind it. It is just a beat 'em up from one scene to the next. It has a little character development here and there. It does have a couple of story building scenes here and there, but for the most part, this is a gruesome beat 'em up reflection straight of the video games. And for the most part, as well as I mentioned in my non-spoiler review, this disregards pretty much the events of the first movie. This is almost kind of like a soft reboot to the series. It does have some mentionings, it does have some callbacks to the first movie, but overall, this has a totally different look, tone, and feel from the first movie, which in my Mortal Kombat discussion that I did on the 2021 movie, just to kind of summarize that really quick, I was kind of in the middle with that movie. I didn't think the movie was bad. I didn't think the movie was good. It was just kind of in the middle for me, but I do definitely understand where fans of the series did that where that movie was not that well received. And I also understand why they chose in this one to go a very different route. And again, almost disregarding the first movie. This one versus the first one, again, in my opinion, was more focused to the fans of the series. They, for the most part, gave the fans what they wanted. So let's go ahead and let's have our spoiler discussion on Mortal Kombat 2. So the opening of this is really cool because for those that know, and I talked about this in the my discussion for Mortal Kombat, going back to the 90s as a kid, I was a huge fan of the game series. And my all-time favorite game in the Mortal Kombat series is Mortal Kombat 2. That was the one I played the most as a kid, and it is my all-time favorite Mortal Kombat game. So the opening of this movie pays homage to it. It pretty much mirrors the intro, for those that know, the intro to the Mortal Kombat 2 game with the dark clouds, the lightning, and the font coloring that they use in this movie is very similar to the opening of Mortal Kombat 2, the original video game. So we are introduced at the start to Adenia. We are introduced to King Jared and his daughter Katana. And this is actually the out of the movie series. This is the first time we are introduced in movie format to Adenia and King Jared and a young Katana. And for those that know, and for those that know in the game lore, Adenia was a realm that Khan conquered, and in the game series, Adenia was pretty much transformed into what we know as Outworld. So this one starts off with King Jared giving his daughter Katana a necklace here that will keep. Basically, what he says is that it carries a passage, or it carries a piece of Raiden, where if she ever needs Raiden, that he's always nearby. And then we go into the fight between King Jared and Shao Kahn. So this is also setting up the tournament in which, in this sense, as we'll find out when we get to where the Earth Realm is in Mortal Kombat, that this is now what we would assume to be the 10th tournament between Adenia and Outworld, and this is setting up the final battle between King Jared and Shao Kahn. And this fight quickly establishes the tone of this movie. This is a brutal fight. Again, setting up that this movie is a pure beat 'em up and goes in every direction of the tone that the video game series is. We also get introduced right off to the classic moves. We get Shao Kahn's classic shoulder ram, and we get the green trail behind him, and that was really awesome. This fight, again, it established where we were going to go with this movie. It was an awesome fight. And I also want to say, too, the look of Shao Kahn in this is the look that we as fans have wanted in a movie series since what we got in Mortal Kombat Annihilation. This is the look of Shao Kahn that we have been hoping for and wanting to see, and you could not have picked a better actor to embody Shao Kahn. The actor that is playing Shao Kahn is Martin Ford, and at 6'8", 320 pounds, he is the ideal actor to play the Emperor of Outworld. So his look in this is absolutely amazing. I really like the look they gave Shao Kahn. The fight goes on. Shao Kahn ends up defeating King Jared, which leads to as he defeats King Jared, we then get a shot of Sindel killing some of Khan's guards, and then in turn of that, Adenia now bows, and with Sindel leading, now bows to Shao Kahn, which gives us the title screen as Katana comes over to her dead father, and as she retrieves the hair bow that we will see come into play much later into the movie. And then we get almost kind of like it's almost kind of mirroring Thanos and Gamora when Gamora was a little girl. It's not identical to it, two totally different, but it almost kind of has that same kind of feel where Shao Kahn he invades this realm as the same as Thanos invaded Gamora's planet, and he then claims Katana as his daughter, the same as Thanos claims Gamora as his daughter. And then again, as I said, we get the opening title credits of Mortal Kombat. Now, the one thing I will say, my one thing that I did not like in this opening scene, and it may have been done by design, I'm not really sure, but in the fight with King Jared and Khan, Jared does inflict damage to Khan, and it's visible. But then we get to a scene where Khan is shown not having any of those wounds, most notably the stabbing underneath his left arm. It's almost as if none of it happened. And then when we cut back to him defeating King Jared and standing there, we see those wounds appear again. That was one of my gripes with this opening scene. Again, it may have been done by design, but that was just one of my my small gripe takeaways from this opening scene. We then go from Katana as a little girl. We then cut to current time, where Katana is grown up and she is sparring with Jade, in which we find out that Jade was established as her bodyguard. And then in this scene, we get to establish their relationship, their sisterhood. We then see Jade gift Katana her classic fans, and then they go to Shao Kahn's throne room, where we get to see her mother, Sindel, which, from the way she looks, and this is going to play a part in this movie too, from the way that she appears to look, it looks like as if she has been brought back to life. It's not explained really in this opening sequence, but it looks like she has what they would call a revenant, which we're going to talk about again as this movie goes. Just from her look, that's what it appears to be, which would follow the lore of the game series. And then in this scene, we also get introduced again to Shang Tsung, who has a different look a little bit from the first movie. I was not a fan of his look in the first movie. I think that the look they gave him in this is much better. And they are immediately discussing, I guess you want to say, the plot point, one of the plot points of this movie of acquiring the amulet of Shinnok. So we are already in this movie establishing the presence of Shinnok, who, for those that don't know, in the game lore, in the game series, Shinnok was a fallen elder god, which went on to take control of Netherrealm, working with Quan Chi. That is what was established in the video game series with Shinnok, and led on into, we went into a lot more in depth with Shinnok after Quan Chi was eliminated in the events of Mortal Kombat 3, and Shinnok became the big bad in Mortal Kombat 4. But that's just a little bit of the backstory to Shinnok, in which I am hoping, which I'm really looking forward to the next installment, if they do a Mortal Kombat 3, which would place Shinnok as the big bad. So I am looking forward to how they progress that story. They are discussing the amulet of Shinnok, and then we cut to Raiden and the crew getting ready. As Raiden says, the tournament is about to begin, but they are short one champion. And then we go to what I think is the best scene, if not one of the best scenes in this movie. We get introduced to Johnny Cage, and I have to say, this. Carl Urban as Johnny Cage makes this movie for me. He is absolutely fantastic in this. I enjoy all the scenes of Carl Urban as Johnny Cage. And I think we caught that even from the trailers. When they first started introducing this movie and showing the trailers, I mean, even from those early details and the early visuals that we got of Carl Urban as Johnny Cage, it just already established that we were going to have a different movie. We were going to have a different tone and a fun tone with this movie. And he makes so much of this movie. And again, this scene is great because we get like that, he's establishing that early, like over the top, that cheesy 80s, 90s, over the top action movie camp. And this scene, I was discussing this with one of my friends. This scene, for those that may be familiar with it, this scene and this looks very similar to a movie that came out a few years ago called Kung Fury. I believe it's a free movie on YouTube. You can check it out. David Hasselhoff actually did a song to this movie, but it almost mirrors a lot of the over-the-top campiness of the movie Kung Fury. And which, a side note, if you have not seen Kung Fury, I strongly suggest you check that movie out. It is absolutely, it's hilarious, it's over the top, and it's fantastic. The one thing in this, so we get the cheesy over the top martial arts action, and when you're watching it, what's really funny about it is his moves and stuff, they're over the top, and he doesn't land a lot of these moves. It's really corny and it's just cheesy. And then we get the one scene where the lady's up at the top and she's getting ready to shoot the rocket launcher, and he attacks her. And as she gets ready to launch the rocket, it goes. This is how cool this is. It goes straight towards him, and he jumps over it. And then they cut to the next scene, and it went from going straight towards him in this warehouse to shooting straight up and blasting a helicopter. It's absolutely hilarious. I love this scene, and it's one of those scenes I can watch over and over again and have such a great time with it. So we see that he's playing this scene. This is on a monitor that's around his booth at a convention where nobody is visiting his booth, which is establishing that he is, for the most part, he is a washed up actor from, that 80s, 90s time frame. Nobody's visiting him at his convention. So he packs his stuff up. And again, he's in a classic 90s Mustang, it adds to that character. I love it. And as he's packing up his items into the trunk, Raiden appears and Sonya, and they visit to tell him that he has been chosen to represent Earth in Mortal Kombat. And what I will say in this scene as well, I definitely like the look that they gave Raiden in this scene versus the first movie. He didn't have a bad look in the first movie, but again, this look directly mirrors the more classic look of Raiden, which was introduced in Mortal Kombat 2. So I much more so like this look of Raiden. So he also gets, this is where, again, they have a lot with Johnny Cage, where a lot of, and in this movie, quite a bit to pop culture references. And this is where we get the classic line where Johnny Cage references Raiden as Big Trouble in Little China, which for those that don't know, that is where Ed Boon and John Tobias, they got a lot of their inspiration for the character of Raiden. From Big Trouble in Little China. And again, if you have not seen that movie, it is a classic movie. I recommend that you check that out. So they're trying to explain to Johnny that he is chosen for Mortal Kombat. Johnny thinks they're fans, or they're there for the convention. He's not believing of what they're talking about. So then Sonya tells Raiden to show him, and then Raiden blasts lightning as a teleporting device, and then Johnny follows through. We then go from there to Raiden's Sky Temple, where we have Jax, Liu Kang, and Cole sparring. Sonya gives Johnny introductions to them, and this is where, again, this scene here establishes the different tone and pace that we are getting from the first movie. And again, it's almost setting up as not acknowledging the events of the first movie. And this is where, again, one thing about this movie is that it does move fast with the action. It does move fast with the pacing in this. So we're already right into it. And this is where, again, Johnny Cage, he calls Raiden Gandalf, and he makes a Squid Game reference. It's absolutely great. Again, this movie moves fast, and Raiden explains to Johnny that the Earth Realm has lost 9 tournaments in Mortal Kombat, and this being the 10th tournament. And if they lose this 10th tournament, then Earth is lost to Outworld. And then Johnny, listening to all this, decides that this is not for him, and he bounces out. He doesn't want anything to do with this tournament, despite what's being told to them, but he does wish Raiden and the crew the best of luck. We then get cut to, looks like we are back in Outworld, where we go to Quan Chi, who is resurrecting Kung Lao, and this is where, again, we are introduced to the Revenants, which I'm hoping, and this is something that I hope when we get to the third movie, it seems like they're really going to really go in on the Revenants into the third movie, which I think if they do that and it's done correctly, which it looks like it will be from this movie, I think that is absolutely going to be awesome. So the one thing I will say with this, again, one of my other gripes with this movie is I was not a fan of the look of Quan Chi. It's not an, oh my God, terrible look, but I really thought, I thought his head was too big. I just didn't like the look that they gave him. Just to give you some comparison, I really wish he would have had, he has some of the classic features, but just to give you comparison, if you go back to the look that he had in the video game Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero in the live action cut sequences, that was what established the look of Quan Chi. I wish they would have gone more with that look. I wish they would have had more. And this look also followed the look from Sub-Zero Mythologies. If you remember the TV series Mortal Kombat Conquest, when Quan Chi appeared in that, he had his classic look. And I just like the way he looked more in those. And I wish they would have copied that more into this movie. So we see Quan Chi resurrect Kung Lao, and then we see Quan Chi's minions bringing something in that looks like a body, and he tells Jade and Katana that he retrieved a package that is called a Kano. And we then cut to Johnny Cage at the bar, where he's seen interacting with a fan, and the fan is telling him he's a big fan of Johnny Cage, and he wishes that they would do a reboot. I believe it was of a Citizen Cage, and we get that whole dialogue line where Johnny tells him, nobody wants to see that, and he makes a Keanu Reeves, which you would presume to be a John Wick reference. And so we have that little fun scene with him and the fan at the bar, and then we cut back to Quan Chi resurrecting Kano, and now we have Kano back in this movie. And I will say, for all the criticisms of the first movie, Kano was, in my opinion, the best part of the first movie, and he is a fun addition to this movie, and again, his portrayal of Kano really adds to this and makes so much of this in this movie. And we're already, once he's resurrected, we're already off and running with him and the wisecracks and the jokes. And we then cut back to Raiden's Sky Temple, where Sonya and the fighters are getting ready for Mortal Kombat. And then what they set up in this one is that fighters, when they are highlighted with they're highlighted with Earthrealm warriors are highlighted in blue, Outworld warriors are highlighted in red, and then when a fighter is highlighted with that glow, that means it is now their time to fight in the tournament, which I think is I think that's kind of a really cool feature to add to this movie. And then we're also introduced, as we get to the first fight scene, we're also introduced to the flame pillars up above, and you have, I believe it's 5 for Earthrealm, 5 for Outworld. Again, Earthrealm in blue, Outworld in red, and then as each one of the flame pillars extinguishes, that is a loss to either side. And once all the flame pillars are out, that side has lost the tournament. Then we see here, as I said, the fighters are highlighted to be chosen. We see that Sonya is the first fighter selected. And then we cut to a video. Johnny Cage is watching a video on his phone from it looks like it's a young Johnny Cage fighting in a tournament. And the cool thing about that is actually Carl Urban's son. I can't think of the young man's name, but that is actually Carl Urban's son portraying a young Johnny Cage in the video. And then we get to where we see the bartender. And the bartender that is talking to Johnny Cage is actually Ed Boon, the co-creator of Mortal Kombat. And he has a fun line where he says, he tells Johnny that he's usually a little more animated, which I think is a great line coming from Ed Boon. And then as he's talking with the bartender, Johnny is then highlighted himself. And then as the bartender, as Ed Boon turns around, Johnny is gone. We then cut to Kano and Quan Chi interacting in what looks like Shao Kahn's castle. And this is, again, another hilarious scene where Kano is asking, I'm sorry, this is not the castle scene yet. This is where they're still on the streets. And we saw a hilarious scene here where Quan Chi is asking Kano about the amulet. And then come to find out the whole time it was in his pocket. They didn't need to resurrect him at all. They could have just reached in his pocket and got it, which again, it's such a great scene. And then as Quan Chi grabs the amulet, Katana insists that she takes it to her father herself. But as she does, she is highlighted and selected to fight. We then go to where Johnny Cage appears in the, looks like the Outworld alley streetway. And then as he appears, the flames, as I talk about, the flame pillars appear to highlight the tournament is getting ready to begin. And our first fight that we see is Johnny Cage versus Katana. And then we get the glimpse of Shao Kahn watching from up above. Kitana ends up going on to defeat Johnny Cage, but she does not kill him or perform a fatality on him when asked to finish him. And what's really cool about that is when she is asked to finish him, we get that classic look from the game where he's kind of swaying back and forth, and then he just falls down, which for those that know, when it comes to your time to perform a fatality on your beaten opponent, if you do not perform the fatality or do anything to the opponent just falls down. So that is a great nod and callback to the video game series, which again, as I said at the beginning, this movie is fan service to the video game lore and the video game series. This also too, again, this is our first introduction to some of the fighting in this movie. For the most part, the fighting in this movie, the choreography in this movie is good. It does have some of those over the top, I don't want to say Crouching Tiger, but those over the top kung fu moments, where in some scenes it can look a little cheesy, but overall, the fighting in this movie, the choreography in this movie is absolutely fun. And they are good in this movie. We then cut after the fight with Johnny and Kitana. We then cut to Sonya and Sindel. And again, as I said before, Sindel appears, and it is kind of made a note of, it's made a reference to by Sonya in there when they're squaring off, that Sindel has been resurrected. Which again follows the video game lore as we got into the Mortal Kombat 3 game series. We also get a classic fighting stage where it looks like we are at the bottom of the pit, which is a classic from the first Mortal Kombat game. Which is one thing I will say about this movie. Again, as we talk about the fan service it delivers, it does give us, and we'll talk about this as the movie goes, it does give us some of the classic fighting stages from the video games. One thing that also happens too here in this, we do get them, and that's one thing that this movie does do, we do get the fighters doing their iconic and their classic special moves. And the one thing that this movie does, again, as we talk about this being pretty much a reboot from the first movie, if you remember in the first movie, the chosen fighters had to receive what they called their arcana. They had to receive their special abilities. In this, they don't talk about that at all. The arcana is completely ignored, never mentioned, never brought up. We start these fighters off with them already having their special powers. We do get some little reference where Sonya, we go back where Sonya's talking to Johnny when he sees Johnny Cage, when Johnny sees Liu Kang shooting his fireballs, having fire, we do get that reference where Sonya says it could take years to develop your special moves, special powers, but they do not make any references at all to the Arcana, which I think was a huge mistake in the first movie to even introduce that. And I like how we have just in this movie, for the most part, established that the fighters already have their special abilities. So we get in this fight, we get the classic where Sindel does her classic scream, and then Sonya does her ring blast. And then the one thing about this pit stage is that the spikes in the pit stage are not stationary. They move at random, which adds to the intensity, which adds to the stakes of this fight. During the fight, Sonya blasts Sindel right through the chest with her rings, and then she does her classic leg grab toss, and she throws Sindel, and her head lands on one of the spikes. Again, this movie delivers on the brutality and the gruesomeness of the Mortal Kombat series that fans have all come to know and love. It does not fall short of that at all. So it is very over the top with the violence and the gore, which is for a Mortal Kombat movie, which is needed. That is the one thing that I will say, and I talked about, again, going back to my discussion on the earlier Mortal Kombat movies, I still think the 95 Mortal Kombat is by far the best movie. It's the best Mortal Kombat live action movie. However, the one thing that it did fall short on, and I understand why they did it, was it having a PG-13 rating. And again, they had to do that at the time because you go back to that, and even still a little bit today, but we are in different times today. But back then, the majority of their fan base, and a lot of their fan base, was that early teen area. So a lot of their fan base that was playing the games at that time was your main demographic area from 12 to 17, around that, even younger. Like I said, when the games came out, I was 9, 10, 11 years old playing these games. So that was a lot of your fan base. Then you did have an older market, but had they done maybe what they should have with the first movie and included a lot of the violence and the gruesomeness that they did in this one, it would have delivered an R rating to that movie, and it probably would not have done well in the box office because you would have, for the most part, you would have removed a lot of that younger market that played the game series. But in this one, again, we're in different times. This one delivers on all of the gruesomeness of the Mortal Kombat series that we all know and love. We then go to Kano and Quan Chi. They're in Shao Kahn's throne room. Again, another hilarious scene where Kano is asking Quan Chi for a new eye. Quan Chi creates one and he just gives it to Kano. He rolls it on the ground. And Kano wants his amulet back, but Quan Chi refuses. Kano puts his eye in. Again, this is and he shoots his lasers out again. Again, this is a funny scene. I think this actor's portrayal, and I apologize, I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but his portrayal of Kano and the way they deliver Kano in this movie, and even in the first one, is absolutely great. I have a fun time every time he is on the screen. We go back to Raiden's temple, and we get a small scene here, a small moment with Raiden and Johnny Cage, where Johnny thinks Raiden pulls out these little small bag of seeds. Look like pills, and Johnny thinks they're magic fighting pills. They're just bird seed, and they're just there to feed birds. And I think this is a good interaction and a good scene between the two characters. Again, this movie does not deliver on much storytelling or plot development with these characters, but there are a couple moments and stuff in this movie where they do slow down from all the action and kind of try to set up some establishment of story and development between these characters, and this is an example of that. We then see Kitana going to, looks like a secret place for her, where we see the necklace of Raiden that her father gave her, and it teleports her. She gets teleported to Raiden's temple, where Raiden is there with Sonya and the crew, and she warns, come to find out that she has been all these years, she has been secretly working with Raiden, and she comes to warn Raiden that Shao Kahn has Shinnok's amulet, and to also kind of go easy on her friend Jade, who is also in the tournament. And then she comes back to find out that Jade knows. Jade confronts her a little bit on it and knows that she is going to see Raiden. We then go back to Raiden's temple. As they're preparing for the next round of the tournament, we then see Kung Lao entering. We get a cool scene here where and again, he looks like he's in his revenant form, which he is, being resurrected by Quan Chi. He then throws his hat and he slices Raiden in the neck, releasing Raiden's godlike essence. This sets up a quick fight here with Quan Chi and Shang Tsung as they enter the temple, and Shang Tsung is looking, he has the amulet and he is trying to capture Raiden's essence into the amulet, because to make the amulet work to give Shao Kahn his immortality and his godlike powers, it needs the essence of a god to charge the amulet. And while this fight is going on, our selected fighters are teleported, and then this leaves Shang Tsung and Quan Chi vanishing. And this leaves our fighters in disarray as Raiden is severely injured. They go back, Quan Chi and Shang Tsung go back to Outworld, where Quan Chi then charges the amulet and prints it into Shao Kahn, giving him his godlike power and immortality. So this is also where I have a problem with this, where this is where it's kind of a plot problem with me in this story. So this story sets up, again, the name of this tournament and the name of all this is Mortal Kombat. Again, Mortal Kombat. So, and this tournament is governed, the Elder Gods established this tournament, and there are rules to this tournament. Again, the tournament is named Mortal Kombat, but yet in this, Shao Kahn is given the powers of Shinnok's amulet, which gives him godlike powers and immortality. And my problem with this in the story is that this should automatically disqualify Shao Kahn from being in the tournament. This should violate the rules of Mortal Kombat. Now, I'm going to make a comparison here, and I can't believe I'm making this comparison. I can't believe that I'm making a comparison to a bad movie that actually did something right within their plot. So I'm going to make a comparison to Mortal Kombat Annihilation. So at the end of Mortal Kombat Annihilation, when Shao Kahn, they already established in Mortal Kombat Annihilation that Shao Kahn is a godlike being. He is an immortal. But when we get to where he's fighting Liu Kang in the final battle, as he's fighting Liu Kang, we notice that he has blood running from him, and he is shocked by this. And we come to find out that the elder gods have interceded into this now. They have now stepped in to govern the rules of their tournament, and they have stripped Shao Kahn of his immortal power so that it is truly mortal versus mortal in Mortal Kombat. So that is my one problem with this movie, is that we've now given Shao Kahn godlike immortal powers, which should have taken him out of the tournament. And that is also, I will say, one thing that I did not like about this movie is that I with that in mind as well, I was not a fan of how just Shao Kahn is engaged in this tournament and he's fighting in this tournament. I really wish that they would have established, it would have been really cool to me, I think that the story where they could have done this would have been a lot better if that maybe from the start, maybe after his battle of King Jared or before it, however you wanted to interject this into the story, that he already had Shinnok's powers. And I think that if we could have further established him as the ultimate big bad and not had him as a fighter in the tournament, and just already had him established as that godlike being, it maybe could have set up more stakes in this for them to find out that they needed to remove that. The only way to defeat Khan was to remove his powers and destroy the amulet. I think that would have been cool to already have him established with the powers of the amulet, and then their part of their story journey would have been they had to find the amulet and destroy it to return Khan back to being immortal. I think that would have been a lot better, and then setting up Khan for the final fight of this movie. I think also too, this movie misses from one big thing. I think what we could have also established too was I would have maybe have liked to have seen some kind of small face off or some kind of small interaction with Khan and Raiden. I think that if we would have gone the route with him already having the amulet established with him and already setting him up as a godlike being to have faced Raiden, I think that would have really taken what they already did with this movie and amplified it up. But we did not get that, unfortunately. And I just think overall I like the look of Khan. I do like the fight scenes that Khan is with this movie. I just wish they would have established him more. They would have removed him out of the tournament play and established him as the big bad and saved, like you could have had that fight still with Jared at the beginning, but saved him for the end with the final victor of the tournament. But nevertheless, moving on with what we have established, we now get to what I think is without question the best fight and the overall visually and everything, the best scene in this movie, which is the portal fight scene with Liu Kang and Kung Lao. This fight is epic. It visually looks amazing. And if we talk about the fan service that this movie delivers, this scene embodies that all the way. This is an absolute amazing scene. Also, too, really quick, before I get into that, though, before we get into that, I forgot about the one fight as we were talking about Khan. Really quick, let's circle back. I had it misplaced in my notes here for the movie, but let's circle back really quick to the fight with Shao Kahn and Cole. Again, this gives us the classic, one of the most iconic fighting stages in the Mortal Kombat game series, the acid pit. We call it the acid pit stage. And what I like about this is the stage looks spot on. Again, pure fan service. Looks absolutely visually amazing. And then we also get what looks really cool is they have a turn of the camera where we get that classic 2D fight off stance look from the video games. I think that was absolutely amazing. And I like this fight. And honestly, in this fight, this goes back to my criticism, what I said about Shao Kahn having these godlike powers, because Cole, for the most part in this fight, had Shao Kahn not had the powers of the amulet, Cole wins this fight. But Shao Kahn, with the powers of the amulet, he's able to heal. He overpowers Cole, and I think this is a cool scene where he throws him down and then takes his hammer and smashes his head, killing Cole. And then he does he takes his hammer like a push broom, and then he pushes Cole into the acid pit. And I honestly, the first time seeing this, I was actually surprised that this is how they ended Cole. Again, we go back to the first movie. Cole was established as the main character, and the story was kind of formulated around Cole in the first movie. Again, talking about how this pretty much disregards the first movie and is a reboot. Cole is just here in this movie. He's just one of the fighters. They don't focus a lot on Cole at all. So when we get to this and the way that he is ended in this quickly, we didn't really get any more further development with Cole in this movie at all. It really, again, shows the disregard from the first movie, but I still think it's a cool death. And so I do like this scene with the acid pit stage. So let's move back now to the most awesome scene in this movie, the portal stage with Liu Kang and Kung Lao. This fight is absolutely epic, and in my opinion, I think this is in the Mortal Kombat movie series going all the way back to the 95 Mortal Kombat. I think this ranks up there as one of the best, if not the best fight sequence in all of the movies. Kind of notably going back to the first movie, we had our fight with Johnny Cage and Scorpion, which was absolutely amazing. We had the best fight in the movie, in the 95 movie, with Liu Kang and Reptile. And then, of course, our fight at the end with Liu Kang and Shang Tsung. Excuse me. This fight ranks up there if it is not better than those previous fights that I mentioned. We get pure fan service in this fight. We got Kung Lao throwing his hat everywhere. It looks absolutely amazing. We got Liu Kang throwing his fire. We got the teleports that Kung Lao does, which in these fight sequences, the way they deliver that, it is absolutely awesome. And then we get Liu Kang's flying kick. As we get to the end of this fight, we see that Liu Kang, he's really kind of holding himself back a lot in this fight. He doesn't want to fight his brother, and he's trying to save his brother. And then, unfortunately, though, the only way he feels is to save his brother is to end him. And we get the spot where Kung Lao sets up his hat throw fatality from the first movie, where it's in the ground and it's spinning, and he knocks Liu Kang in the air towards the hat. But Liu Kang, while he's in the air, he grabs Kung Lao's hands and he pulls him down over his own spinning hat, ending Kung Lao. Again, this whole sequence, without question, the best sequence, the best scene, the best visual scene in this movie. And I think as we get on, if we get to another installment of the series, and even looking back to previous installments, this is going to go down as one of the most iconic, if not the most iconic sequence in all of the Mortal Kombat movies. Liu Kang then teleports back to the temple where Raiden is still alive. They have him and Raiden have a short conversation. We don't know what is said, but we will kind of find that out towards the end of the movie, and we will circle back to that. But they have a little private exchange of words. And then we get to Quan Chi locking up the amulet in Shao Kahn's castle, where then Shao Kahn asks him to resurrect Sub-Zero. And then we are sent to the Netherrealm, where we see Sub-Zero laying there in the same condition that he was in at the hands of Scorpion at the end of the first movie. And then we see him becoming reborn as Noob Saibot, which they don't mention Noob Saibot, the name, directly in this movie, but we know what he is. They still reference him as Bihan, but in this discussion, I will be referencing him as Bihan / Noob Saibot. We then go back to Raiden's temple, where Quintana informs the team now what has happened with the amulet and what it has given Khan, and that the only way that they have to destroy the amulet to take away Khan's powers. They then discuss that the best way to enter the temple is through a passageway, in which to get through that passageway, they will need the help of the Tarkatans. We then go to, again, one of the other best scenes in this movie, where we are now back in Outworld and we go to the Tarkatans area. As this is going on, Katana teleports back to Outworld, where then she is immediately apprehended by Jade for helping Earthrealm. We then go back to the Tarkatan base. This, again, is one of the funniest and best scenes in this movie. And I have to say this, if we're making a comparison, so if you go back to Mortal Kombat Annihilation and how bad they made what you would assume to have been Baraka, the Tarkatans look in that movie, we get to this. I love the way the Tarkatans look in this. They did a really good job visually with the representation of the Tarkatans and how Baraka looks. I think it looks absolutely amazing. So we get to this scene, and Liu asks Baraka for his help, and he asks for the Tarkatans' help, in which they decline. And then Liu challenges Baraka to a fight, in which Baraka declines. And this is where we see Johnny step up, and he gives a speech. It's hilarious. And he gives a speech, and in the end result of this, it leads to Baraka wanting to challenge Johnny Cage. Again, Carl Urban as Johnny Cage in this movie just absolutely delivers. This fight actually goes on. So they basically set up in this, as they have through the movie, is that Johnny Cage is this washed up actor he used to be a great fighter, but now he's a has-been kind of washed up actor. He's lost his confidence. He's lost his motivations. And this fight scene actually reactivates that confidence into him being the fighter in person that he's been capable of being this whole time and that he used to be. We get that classic spot where he puts on the glasses with the middle finger and he says, it's showtime. Classic scene. I love it. And then we get into the fight and we get the scene. He's actually mimicking a lot of the fight sequence moves from the video we saw of him earlier, introducing him. And then we get that classic scene of him flailing his arms with Baraka back and forth. It's funny. It looks so great. You would think this is an area, or if you think about it, it actually just looks dumb. But the way that they're shooting this, the way that they're doing this, and the tone with this movie, it is great. And I remember watching this in the theater for the first time. People were laughing. I was laughing with this. And then as he's doing the flailing of the arms, it leads into him doing his classic split nut punch on Baraka. Again, absolutely funny. It's hilarious. And then Baraka honors Johnny as the greatest fighting he has ever seen. And he says, from the one they call Johnny effing Cage. He then asked Johnny to teach him his ways. And then he helps the crew get into Khan's castle. And then as they break into Khan's castle, Baraka tells him he can go no further. And then Johnny, it's this a great dialogue scene where Johnny calls Baraka his pupil, and he says he will return to continue his training. And he's got the robes on with the hood over him. It's almost a nod, a reference to Star Wars, with him looking like he has Jedi robes on, and he's calling him his pupil, and he will return to continue his training. I love all this. All of this stuff with Johnny Cage and Baraka, and like I said, Johnny Cage overall in this movie, absolutely fantastic. We then go to Khan deciding what punishment should befall Katana, and then we see that he has also yet again, through Quan Chi, resurrected her mother, and he has. He has her there, and it really tugs at Katana. And then he decides that he is going to chain Katana up in the town square for all to observe what happens when you betray Shao Kahn. And then we cut to Liu Kang and the crew are now inside the castle and face off against Khan. We get that cool scene where Liu Kang is summoning up the fire dragons. And it looks really visually cool as he takes that energy and he blasts the dragons at Khan. We're almost kind of... The one thing this movie does from this point on, without directly saying it, it kind of is starting to establish... perhaps maybe, and I could be wrong in this, we'll see what they do in the next movie. We're almost kind of establishing Liu Kang's fire god look, his powers. It almost looks like it's kind of leaning towards that a little bit. Again, we'll see what happens when they get into the next movie, but it does kind of hint to that a little bit. So we get another good fight sequence with Liu Kang, Shao Kahn taking on Liu Kang. He also faces off against Jax, and he faces off against Sonya a little bit in this. Again, we get Shao Kahn's classic moves. When the way that they do in this movie, just with all the fighters, the way that they showcase their special powers and their special moves, again, it's pure fan service. It looks absolutely amazing. We then see Johnny Cage enter the castle, and he tries to go up behind Shao Kahn and take the amulet, in which then Bihan Noob Saibot appears and takes the amulet. Khan tells him to get that to a safe place, and then Bihan vanishes to what we would believe to be back to the Netherrealm with the amulet. As Khan is fighting Jax, he ends up killing Jax. And then this movie pulls no punches, literally. It's killing our Earthrealm warriors. It's establishing a lot, and he's killed in a brutal way. But we're also, and again, this is where I say it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with the Revenants in the next movie. If they'll have Jax back, which I would believe they would, because again, in the game series, he was a Revenant. So this is gonna be really interesting with what they could set up for the third movie. We see then next, as this goes on, both Khan and Sonya are teleported to they're highlighted and getting ready to teleport to their next fight in the tournament as Kano enters. As Kano enters, he's there with Johnny Cage, and he enters with Outworld guards. He then does the funniest thing. He tells them to line up in a straight line, and he blasts through them with his laser eye. And then he starts to have a dialogue with Johnny Cage where he wants to make a deal with him. We then have a quick scene where Jade goes to the town center to visit Katana as she's chained up in the town center, and she asks Katana to beg Khan for his forgiveness. We then cut to Kano and Johnny Cage back at Raiden's temple, where they are devising a plan to retrieve Shinnok's amulet from the Netherrealm. And Raiden, with what little energy he has left, is able to teleport them to the Netherrealm, but he tells them that they are going to need a guide in the Netherrealm, and then which we are introduced to Hanzo Hisashi. And they set this up to where he is in what looks like his own beautiful piece of reality in the Netherrealm. Looks like he's gardening. And then Kano and Johnny Cage have a dialogue with him where they tell them that they need his help to guide through the Netherrealm, and he is reluctant to help them. He wants no part of it until they say Bihan is alive. And then once they do that, that motivates and pretty much enrages Hanzo Hisashi, and we see the transformation of his beautiful garden place into the reality of his lair of the pits of hell in the Netherrealm, where he then is transformed into Scorpion. Visually, this is awesome, and again, it is fan service. Netherrealm in the game series is pretty much hell. It's Mortal Kombat's depiction of hell, and they reference that in this movie. And in the game series, this backdrop, this area was also referenced as Scorpion's lair, and they kind of in the '95 Mortal Kombat. When Johnny Cage and Scorpion are fighting and Johnny Cage delivers his shadow kick and Scorpion teleports them to his lair, it's almost, that's what they try to kind of do in the 95 movie. Whereas in this, they go full all the way with the visuals on this, and it looks absolutely amazing. We have now set up to our final sequence, our final fights of this movie, where we set up the fights with Liu Kang and Sonya taking on Shao Kahn, and then Scorpion, Johnny Cage, and Kano taking on Bihan Noob Saibot. And then what's really cool with the Netherrealm fight is this is where we get, again, like it was in the game, Bihan separates himself, and he has two forms. Again, that Bihan Noob Saibot. It looked visually, the look of him in this movie, it looks great. It looks really good, and that's the one thing I will say with this movie. I like the movie because of its. I like the movie because it's fan service to the video game. My one problem with this movie was there was really no character development or storytelling to that degree. But the one thing I will say that I like about this movie and makes it fun is the way this movie looks visually. It looks awesome. Visually. The fight, again, talking about the Netherrealm fighting sequence in this, both fighting sequences, but more so the fighting sequence in the Netherrealm It looks absolutely good. And then the one thing I want to say with this, and if anybody that from the Mortal Kombat production, anything is listening to this, or anybody from Hollywood that's listening to this at all, I want to see. I will say this: just seeing Johnny Cage and Kano on the screen and their interactions together. Please give us a side project movie. Kind of like what we did in the Fast and Furious with Hobbs and Shaw. I'm not saying that Hobbs and Shaw was good. I'm just saying what they did in that series where you had the Fast and Furious series, and then they took the chemistry and dialogue of Hobbs and Shaw from those, and they went and made their own spin-off movie. I would really like to see that happen with Johnny Cage and Kano. I would like to see a Lethal Weapon style buddy cop movie with Johnny Cage and Kano. I think that would absolutely be hilarious. So we cut back to the fights with Khan and Sonya and Liu. Overall, this is a good fight. Again, we are really highlighting in on those special moves between the characters. And then we cut back to Scorpion fighting Noob. Again, visually awesome fight sequence. We go back to Khan fighting Liu Kang, in which Khan stabs Liu with the reverse end of his hammer. And again, we see just from the way they're setting this up, we get a couple things with this. We understand what, we go back earlier. We understand to the conversation that Raiden had with Liu, where he tells Liu that he is not the chosen one and that his mission is to go and save his brother Kung Lao. So this almost, again, it gives us from the way it's visually presented and the way that Liu is talking, again, it almost gives us that look that we're going to get Liu ascended to his fire god status from the later Mortal Kombat series games. Could be wrong. It's possible. It's possible that they could set him up as a Revenant because he was a Revenant in the Mortal Kombat series before he transformed into a fire god. I don't know where they're going to go with it, but either way, I would not be disappointed either way they go with it, but it just looks like they're getting ready to ascend him to that fire god status. So after Khan stabs him, goes through his dialogue where he says he knows that he's not the chosen one. He is to save Kung Lao. He then ascends up and he vanishes. And then we see Sonya then frees Katana as Khan delivers the final blow to Sonya, knocking her out. At this point, Khan has defeated Earthrealm, and he has won Mortal Kombat. The last of the Earthrealm flames, pillars goes out, but then a Katana announces that she is now fighting for Earthrealm, reigniting that last flame. We are now in the final fight of the tournament with Khan and Katana. We then cut back to the Netherrealm where we get Johnny Cage holding on to the amulet against Noob. We then cut to where Scorpion is fighting both Bihan and Noob as they're in split form. And then we get that iconic scene where Scorpion throws his spear, yelling that classic, "Get over here." It's such an awesome visual. It's such an awesome scene. And then this also allows him to defeat one half of Bihan, Noob Saibot. As this is going on, Shao Kahn, we get a kind of a mix of scenes here. Shang Tsung is now entering Raiden's temple to destroy Raiden. As we cut to Jade, Jade has now entered the Netherrealm, and from what we can understand from a previous scene, her staff is hiding like a green. Again, why her name is Jade? It's hiding like a green jade force of energy. Well, we see her break the end of the staff, and then it releases the casing around the staff to show it in full emerald jade glowing energy, which we could assume at that point that allows her. We then see her entering into the Netherrealm, and then as she goes into the Netherrealm, she helps Kano, Cage, and Scorpion as they deliver the final blows to Noob Saibot. They're all joining forces. Scorpion does his classic flame throw. They're all, Kano does his laser eye. Jade is blasting with her staff. And then they're all teaming up again as Johnny Cage. This looks really cool. Johnny Cage, he does they finally give him the classic shadow kick. As he shadow kicks into Noob Saibot, he destroys the amulet. And then as he destroys the amulet, at the same time, Raiden, as Shang Tsung is getting ready to destroy Raiden, Raiden's powers are fully restored, and we get that classic. We get that. That's back and forth where Shang Tsung is now. You can see the fear in his eyes, and he says to Raiden, "You're supposed to." He says something effective. "You're supposed to be dead," and Raiden says, "You should run," and he blasts him right out of his temple. I love that. I love that scene. And then as this is going on, of course, the powers of the amulet are going away from Shao Kahn as Kitana is using her fans, and she is just slicing Kahn up. We get that one shot where she does the fan from the Mortal Kombat, the game from MK2, where she does the fan rotation, and she uses it right in smack in the middle of Kahn's helmet. Again, as we see the amulet go away, it returns Kahn back to his mortal form. Again, Kitana is just delivering blow after blow, and then she gets Kahn down to his knees, and she says, "Let's show it. It's time to show everybody what you really are." And she takes off his helmet, and again, the look they gave Kahn in this looks absolutely amazing. And then she takes her fans, digs them into his head and slices his head, ending Kahn and establishing her now as the victor of Mortal Kombat for Earthrealm and the champion. As she wins, the people of Edenia come down and they begin to bow to Kitana as she tells them to stand up, do not bow to her, and then they now recognize and praise her as the queen. We then go to a voiceover from Johnny Cage, and then it shows all the fighters having their kind of, I guess you want to say, their good moments. Scorpion is back at his peace place, his farming place at the Netherrealm. Shows Kitana taking the throne, and then as this is going on, it goes to Johnny. We see Johnny actually speaking the words, and he is around a fire pit with Baraka and the Tarkatan kids, and basically he's narrating his own version of events, which is absolutely funny. As he's doing this, Raiden and Sonya appear, and then we have Kitana and Jade appear, and Kano and Quan Chi appear, where Raiden says that they are now going to go and save their friends, which has Kano appear with Quan Chi, basically saying that this guy here, this is the guy that can help us do that. So we then get the final shot where they are walking away from the fire pit, and then Raiden blasts his lightning to teleport them out. We then get to the end credits with the iconic Mortal Kombat theme. And that is going to do it for my spoiler discussion on Mortal Kombat 2. Again, my final thoughts to this: it's a pure beat-em-up fan service movie. It hits on all those right notes for the fans of Mortal Kombat. If you're just looking for that gruesome beat-em-up, over-the-top violence and action, but you're not, this is going to be for you. It does lack in character development and storytelling. There's not really too much of a plot to this other than the direct Earth has to defend from Outworld in the tournament. They have Outworld's won 9 tournaments. This is the 10th one, and if Earth doesn't win, they fall to Outworld. That's basically as much plot as we get to this movie. The only really character developments that we get is with Kitana and Johnny Cage. So this does lack in a lot of storytelling and character development with the plot. But again, if you're just looking for a plot that is just a beat 'em up, over the top, gruesome, bloody, that is a fan service to the games, this is absolutely a fun ride to have. So overall, I did enjoy this movie. And if you did not get a chance to see this in theaters, you did miss out. This was visually really awesome to see in theaters. So that is my final thoughts to Mortal Kombat 2. And that is going to do it for this episode of Cine James Movie Talk. Coming up, just to give you a rundown of what is ahead now, I am going to be doing I'm going to throw this in. My next episode was going to be a spoiler review on the new Mandalorian and Grogu. However, by the time of this recording, I am going to be seeing the new Steven Spielberg. I'm going to be seeing the new Steven Spielberg movie. Crap. I can't think of of what the name of it is off the top of my head. I am so sorry. I think it's called Disclosure Day. That is it. I knew it was Disclosure. I couldn't think of what the next name is. So by the time this movie, or by the time this episode is airing, I will be seeing the new Steven Spielberg Disclosure Day, and then I'm going to be doing a non-spoiler review on that movie. Then next, I am going to be doing my full spoiler review on The Mandalorian and Grogu. Then we are going to be talking about one of my all-time favorite movies, the 35th anniversary of Terminator 2. Judgment Day. We are right around the corner to the release of the new DCU movie Supergirl. So when that movie releases, I will be giving you a non-spoiler review on that as well. We're going to have some other episodes in between that. I'm not decided what I'm going to be discussing or going through next, other than what I have mentioned. But coming up next month, we are going to have the spoiler review of the much anticipated. It is also right around the corner. Spider-Man Brand New Day. And I think what we'll do on that, before we see Spider-Man Brand New Day, we may do an episode or two on the previous Spider-Man movies, the Sam Raimi movies, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans. We may go into that. I'm not sure yet. And then talking about the Tom Holland previous Spider-Man movies, we may deep dive into those, but I am not sure yet on that. But again, this is going to do it for episode 12 on my spoiler discussion for Mortal Kombat 2. Again, as always, if you like the show, go on YouTube. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you're on Spotify, tap that bell, tap that follow. I appreciate all the love and support. You can also get me on social media at Facebook and Instagram at Cine James Movie Talk. Also, make sure you are going to check out my other show I co-host alongside with the Big Rob Theory called Super Cinema Brothers. We have released our first episode, which discusses the Star Wars prequel trilogy, and we are getting ready to release our next episode discussing the Star Wars original trilogy. That is going to be that show is also going to be a fun show you're not going to want to miss. Again, that is called Super Cinema Brothers. That is going to do it, guys. Again, thank you so much, and as always, I will see you at the box office.